Josh Holder,
Saul Agnon,
Marcus Boykin,
El Navajas, and the Mexican Sicarios, Steve Horn, Commander Cox, Admiral Pillar, Captain Howard, Lorraine Hartley, Ben Edwards. Yeah, so episode 8, known as Reclamation, we have to tie a whole lot of things together because episode 7 ended up with Katie in the library attempting to publish her story. And there are some issues I have with this legally, but I'll set those aside. The SecDef comes in and seems in some way to have interfered with her internet connection and intercepted her email to send in the story and get it to print at Voltstream Media. And Lorraine Hartley tells her, I couldn't let your story go to print because it's not true. She drew the wrong conclusions and instead wants to give her an interview so Katie can get the full story from her perspective. What'd you think about Lorraine's angling here to bring Katie with her to her island getaway on Orca's Island so that she could try to delay the publication of her story?
Yeah, so I definitely would not be too eager to go with a secretary to a desolate island area in the middle of a lake.
After she took my story.
Yeah, well, the fact that, as someone who does submit stuff from time to time, if it doesn't get to the intended, recipients, I'm a little concerned if someone's blocking I'm not a reporter, but if I was, I'd be a little upset if someone decided to block my story. When I knew that I had the facts, I had she's got this file. She shows she can prove what has occurred has really happened. And then for the secretary to really have the gall to say, well, sure, you have the facts, but you haven't drawn the right conclusions. You've drawn some wrong conclusions, and I'm going to set the record straight. Yeah. I like the way they did it. I like the way they did it in the library and everything, but definitely your radar has to be, pinging pretty hardcore of going,
yeah,
don't go.
Yeah, alternate facts maybe, but
absolutely fake news.
Do you buy it? Do you buy Hartley trying to defend her position and argue, Admiral Pillar didn't tell me about the tumors. I didn't know about them. If the drug worked, this could save thousands of our operators' lives. And she's not exactly washing her hands of everything, but she is saying, I wasn't as deep into this as you are leading your readers to believe.
So I won't give away the ending till we get there, but I will say at this point, I don't buy it because of the final action that takes place.
Correct.
That I think reveals the intent. But she does. Jean Triplehorn, by the way, played this role so good. I haven't seen her in years in anything, but definitely a great actress. And I think she played that role. She was very well cast. I know there was questions on some of the casting, and there always is. You can't make people happy. And I will say, it's going to be interesting if they do bring, if other books get adapted, if True Believer gets adapted, and Devil's Hand and everything, as the series goes on, it'll be interesting to see. Spoiler alert, but for Katie and for Reece, how that plays out, how their relationship plays out, just from how it started here in the first series. Definitely a lot of tension, definitely a lot of distrust. So that'll be quite interesting how they can make all that blend in well. But yeah, I think the casting for Triplehorn though was great. I liked her role, and earlier in the series too. She's so sympathetic. I mean, she's there for Reece if you need anything. And again, it's building. You're telling a story and you're building up a character. And is this character authentic or not? And I think they do a great job of that.
I agree. 100% agree. Just on the Katie thing, I too have seen a lot of people complain, especially because Reece had a gun in her face twice, really has been quite aggressive to her.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, when Reece does have his sights trained on Hartley, and Katie is basically trying to ask him to spare her life, Admiral Pillar was the one. There's somebody else out there. Hartley didn't get the $20 million. There's this thing goes a little deeper. It's not her, it's someone else. Reece is brushing her off. So yeah, to have them come together would be tough. But in the book, this scene on the island, Katie is also in danger, and Reece gambles with her life there as well. So
Yeah.
I actually think the fact that viewers are unhappy about their relationship maybe being one that's very antagonistic, and how could it ever be possible that they can mend those wounds, I think is very analogous to the book, just in a different way. Because in case anybody doesn't know, you've seen the show, I'll just give you a quick summary of how this scene plays out. Is that Hartley is on the island with Steve Horn, who is still alive, who really is the one pulling all the strings here.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, their bargaining chip, knowing that Reece is coming after them, is Katie.
It's Katie.
And it's Ben who's got explosives around Katie's neck. And he says, if you shoot me, she blows up. And Reece decides to take the shot. He takes him out,
Mm-hmm.
which means he gambled with Katie's life. If Ben was being honest that he had explosives on her that would go off, she's dead too. And he
Right.
still took the shot. So I think the fact that their relationship is so fraught with distrust, I think actually does mirror the book. It just played out quite differently.
Well, in the series, he gambles with her life when he decides to basically blow up the vehicle, and she's
Exactly
away from it, and it blows her off her feet. And that, again, was one of those scenes that Reece could very easily go from being the hero, the good guy who's on a murderous path, you could say, but on a path for justice to take these people out. You can easily cross that line, though, if you allow yourself to kill innocent people to get to guilty people.
And he hesitated. That essentially spared Katie's life, and it's the reason he didn't kill Horn right away, because he didn't blow the bomb. He saw her and wanted to give her a chance to get away.
Right, exactly. And I think if he hadn't hesitated, if he had done it, and that result, had been more loss of life, innocent loss of life, then you kind of lose him almost as an antagonist, or as a protagonist, and he becomes an antagonist because he's kind of being a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's taking innocent life, and there's got to be that line in the sand you won't cross.
Right.
Just as a storyteller, I always try to figure out, okay, who are these characters, and what can they do, and what can they not do? It's more fun to write the bad guys sometimes because you can make them have no line, essentially, and they're fulfilling the role you created for them. So you can have a little bit more fun with that. But when you're crafting, the quote unquote good guy, he has to, or he or she has to have a line that they can't cross, or then they become just the same as the villains.
Right. So some deep stuff going on here, some deep things about their relationships. Who can you trust? Who can you not trust? And
Absolutely.
It's all playing out amidst a really awesome action set piece. What did you think about Reece storming the beach, Ben set up in the lighthouse, sniping guys, Reece going tree to tree, trying to enter this house, even though it's swarming with the Talos security contractors? That was a pretty cool battle scene, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they did a great job. And then, of course, then Ben becomes a target because the FBI, it's not hard late at night to see a muzzle flash back behind in the distance going from an elevated position. It's like, I think we have to go there. We have to engage someone.
Tony's team is coming in at the same time. So you got the Talos contractors, you got the FBI, and you've got Ben and Reece. So this is really a huge battle.
Yeah, again, a great battle scene. And, you have to view it as what's Reece's specialty, what's he's able to do. Because part of you can look at it and go, okay, that's a lot of people you're going to have to kill to get in that door, which is true. But the vast majority of those people probably, doing guard duty don't have his experience. Or if they have served, if they have held a position like that, chances are it's been a while. Chances are they have not pulled a trigger on someone. They've not taken a shot in a long time. Versus for Reece, it's been a common occurrence, especially in the series. When he's he's got it down. He's able to take those shots, and he's able to move under duress. I mean, he's an extreme. I mean, when he's hiding behind those trees, those guys are taking shots at him, so he's having to duck and cover and protect himself. But gets in the house, and I'm trying to remember when he gets in the house. Yeah, he does. When he gets on the second floor there, he does engage several people before he gets to Hartley's off or safe room, basically, or panic room. Because then he has that one guy. Actually, that was one of those scenes where he has the one guy, use the code to get her in, and then pops the guy. So
that's right.
It's like, you served your purpose. You're a bad guy.
I think we discussed the times where James Reece is shown in a good light with his decisions to keep Tony alive and whatnot, but he is also crossing that line when he needs to have mission accomplished. He's going to let people go when they won't jeopardize him finishing the list. But if you in any way played a role in this, even if it was just a hired gun, I'm going to finish the list instead of you. So it is getting into that gray zone. It's not a black or white. Very often Mitch Rapp and other characters in the genre they're massive killers, but they're almost too good. They almost never want to hurt the innocent people sometimes, or just any other character in the genre, where this one is definitely going darker. It's definitely putting the audience you have to make a decision, right? You could watch this entire series and you could be floored with all the killing. And why is he doing all this killing that's beyond just the list? Or you can notice the moments he spares Tony, or he saves Mac after she blows up. And instead of getting away in the river, he decides to give her the CPR. I mean, you could look at those little moments and you could buy that Reece, or you could buy the Reece here who's just indiscriminately killing all these guards. The show doesn't tell you he's 100% good or he's 100% bad. Right.
Well, I talk back about that scene just real quick. The fact that he brings her back, he does CPR. She's not grateful. He brought her back. She's pissed that he took her out to start with. He set off the explosions that buried her. So it's almost like, yeah, buddy, you saved me, but you really killed me to start with. So you kind of owed me that. I'm not going to say, well, thanks for saving me.
It's the gray zone.
Another good scene. Yeah, absolutely. Well, he does operate in that gray area.
Yep.
And I think for the most part, you have to overlook it. You look at the scenes that are taking place as he's storming Hartley's, as he's storming the house. Those guys are shooting at him.
True. Right.
As soon as someone raises a gun and puts a bullet your way, they could kill you. So they're an active target. You have every right to defend yourself and take them out. So
he knows their orders are to shoot to kill on sight. So you're right. Absolutely. 100%.
So they're not, those ones are innocents.
Are not.
Although
innocent, correct.
I did smirk a little bit when the guy put it in the code and he then popped. I'm like, well, but I guess it was a bad guy.
What are you going to do? Hog time or something? Like, it's too much.
Yeah. You don't have time for that. 7 grams or 8 grams, whatever those things weigh, are much better to use to expedite that person to the afterlife.
All right, so that scene takes place. Eventually, Hartley offs herself instead of taking a bullet from Reece. He is shot in all this. He's getting his headaches. He's also trying to patch up a wound. He's got a gun on Hartley. Pretty dramatic scene. As soon as she takes herself out, his mission's over. The list is done, except Katie's there to say there's someone else. Because the 20 million's unaccounted for. I kind of buy Hartley saying she was not the final one where the buck stops. And Oberon Analytics is not accounted for. So there is more story to be told. And before Reece can get off the island, hobbling away, I think, where was he shot? Was it the leg? I don't remember exactly.
Somewhere in the leg. He was hobbling, so it was somewhere in the leg, I recall, yes. I know he was shot up in the our shoulder back in the Sierra, back with the HRT team.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he spared Tony in the garage, and Tony has a chance here to take him in, or he says, "Don't make me shoot you, Reece." But Tony is never really, or he's come around. I feel like Tony's had an arc here to being a single-minded law enforcement, just, if I got to take you, I got to take you. That's the end of the story. And Tony's kind of now seeing big picture based on what Katie said, intel he's getting, the vibes he got from Admiral Pillar. I think Tony has come full circle, and that's why he lets Reece live. And Reece walks off with his scuba gear, doesn't even have his fins or his breather on. and he just walks into the sea. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and to just go back again about Hartley is the fact that she took her own life. To me,
she was guilty.
Yeah, I mean, I do know probably there are some innocent people that kill themselves in situations out of stress or anxiety or mental illness, whatever the situation might be. But someone with her level of expertise, her drive, her intelligence, I don't believe she's going to shoot herself if at the end of the day, I'm really not guilty of what you're accusing me of. Yeah. I would think she would try to rationalize with him, even if she knew it was... She would rationalize with him until he pulled the trigger himself, not her taking it. So I think for that reason alone, there's an element of guilt there for her to actually do that act.
I definitely see that reading. Also, well, either way, she is guilty about using the drug on the seals that gave them the tumor.
Correct.
Like, that was the wrong decision. I think she's seen Reece kill, and she knows how all the other kills went down. And she realizes there's no chance of getting out of this. And maybe it was the least painful way out, knowing what Reece could otherwise do to you.
Yeah.
A couple of different ways you can read it.
She read the book and she knows about tomahawks, and she goes, "Hey, I'm not down with that one." So.
This guy messes with the Winkler Sayok. No, thank you.
Exactly. My husband has a Winkler. I wouldn't want him chasing me around with that thing. So, she says.
I prefer not to see my intestines as I pass out and die.
I don't want to know what they look like. No, thank you. But no, you're right with Tony down at the lake where he does. Because, he just could have shot Reece right then and there. And you could.
Did his job.
I'm sure from a law enforcement standpoint, he would have been justified. All the bodies around. He's not going to have that much trouble saying, I finally had him on sight, and he was armed, and I took the shot. Even if he shot him in the back, he'd still get he might have a, tough interrogation on what happened, but, he'd be justified with what occurred.
Right. Exactly. And just one other thing while we're on the scene is Boozer. Reece saw Boozer diving in with him when he approached the island. I thought, and Donnie, was that Donnie also sitting on the edge of the boat? I feel like two guys dove with him.
There was two of them with him, yes, that he saw. Yes, and I believe the second one was Donnie, yes.
That was kind of cool. Just, I think it showed these flashbacks and trauma he's dealing with. He's a little more at ease with, and he realizes these are the people I'm going to see. Basically, I'm not coming out of this mission. I know I got the tumor, even if I do complete the mission. Whatever happens, I'm going back to see these guys. And he's kind of at peace with them and wants one last operation, and they take the dive with him. I thought it was a nice touch.
Yeah, that is classy way to do it. I agree.
All right. Final scene. It is 3 weeks later. Katie is texting Reece, and he asks, have you found the 20 million? Who's Oberon? And Katie says it was routed through a bank in Peru.
Mm-hmm.
I know I perked up and went, oh my goodness. I knew there was a turn. Spoiler, any readers, we knew Ben Edwards was behind this. We knew there was the heel turn, but I wasn't sure if they were going to show it. I wasn't sure if that would be the cliffhanger, if they were going to match the ending of the book that Ben Edwards was one of the conspirators. And when we saw that text about Peru, I knew it. I thought that was a great way to reveal it.
Yeah. Yeah, basically from earlier in the show when Ben was trying to get him to go to Peru with him, just walk away. We can have a good life away from all this. Yeah, at that point you knew, okay, we know who the final name is on the list, basically.
Yep, exactly. And so this confrontation on the sailboat in Peru, Reece knows, and Katie had evidence that he was the last person who made $20 million off the sale of New Bellum and RD-4895, and he confronts Ben. A couple of lines here. Ben tries to justify what he did, and I think we as the viewers, we needed this because it could feel totally cheap unless you buy into Ben's motivations. And both in the book and the show, I bought it. And here's why. I want to make a few points about what Ben says. He says, I knew you were all dead. I knew about the tumors, and so I thought, let them die with their boots on rather than some hospital bed somewhere.
Right.
I almost felt that Ben knew that would be a more fitting ending for the guys than just having this tumor, suffering through it. But it's their choice to make, and Ben made the choice for them to blow them up. And so Reece says, well, did you do it for us or did you do it for the $20 million? And Ben says, maybe both. But that he couldn't spend a dime of that money. So he had the 20 mil, didn't know what to do with it, couldn't bring himself to spend it. So he might have done it for the money. In the book, he says, I wasn't going to do it for the money, but when it became millions of dollars in the double digits, the game kind of changed, because that's a lot different than getting $500K.
Right, exactly. And that blood money, I mean, I don't know that steak would taste as good if you know how you got it. So especially with the Brotherhood.
And he hoped, though, it was just letting the guys die on mission on the field, something a bit more fitting that they would have wanted than knowing the government fucked them with the tumor and having to deal with the trauma and stress of that in their last few days. So
yeah, dying in a hospital bed or dying, absolutely in a hospital.
Again, wrong thing, but trying to argue for the right reasons. I don't think so, but that's trying to reconcile that.
Yeah, trying to justify his actions.
Yeah.
So,
all right, now the last thing Ben absolutely clearly wants Reece to know, and he says he wants it set in stone. He had nothing to do with Lauren and Lucy. Never thought it would go there. Originally, when he got involved, there was no reason they would ever be brought into it. And I think Reece buys that. Reece does say, I know, Ben, that you had nothing to do with that, and 100% buy that. And he even says, let's finish the list, which leads me to believe Hartley said this thing runs deeper than you think. Now, Ben is saying, let's finish the list. Reece is going to finish the list when he shoots Ben. Is Ben hinting at something, that there is one last person or something higher up the chain when he says you and I can go finish the list together? Or is it just a cop-out to try to get Reece to spare him?
Yeah, good question. And I think it's I don't think it's a cop-out. I think it's more of, hey, there's a little bit more information that you don't have, and maybe that Ben doesn't even have, that there's someone else that needs to be taken care of. So
yeah,
that's definitely a way to read it, for sure. Absolutely.
It's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, which is all good series. We want the viewers to come back for, second season.
And more.
Yeah. Well, and Jack's, he's got the blueprint there for them to follow if Amazon so chooses. So
right. When we had him on the show and we were interviewing him, we asked him, of course, anything you've heard or know about a renewal or season 2? He says, well, I just got some text, and he was texting somebody on the phone. So I think something's brewing, but he didn't give us any sort of final announcement or hints. But I think the renewal is it's coming.
I think I heard him say something on one of the media in the last few months that he's been working on some sort of a synopsis or something, to present of how they could handle, how they could, transition to, True Believer, basically.
Yep. All right. Well, that's how the series wraps up, is just like it did in the book. Reece crosses off the final name on the list, holds it to his heart, lets it go out to sea. The same way he's going to take the sailboat out to sea. And I think it's a fitting ending. He's going to go back home.
And even before that, let's talk about real quick before that, because I did, as they were sitting there, as you got two operators, yes, but you got two people that are as close as brothers in this small area. They both know what's going to happen. Ben's not fighting what's going to happen. He's ready to go. I think, as he even says that line, I'm ready. He's ready for the justice that's coming for him. And as that was playing out, for a second there, I thought, okay, are they going to show him shoot him? And I actually really like that they didn't. They actually show it from the water, the boat's out there, and there's a pause for it's not just a second. It's a couple seconds of just peacefulness, and then you just hear a single shot, which answers your question of what happened, and then of course cut into him on the boat. You know exactly what happened, and like you were saying, with the list wasn't needed anymore. So
right, the list was complete.
The list was complete, yes, or was it?
Or was it? That's the thing. The one other hint we get about True Believer, and unless you're a reader of the book, you really wouldn't have picked up on it, twice throughout the series, and one of them was just in episode 7. Rafe Hastings is brought up.
Correct.
And there's a little back and forth with Ben when they're in the van of, I don't know why you trust that motherfucker, or how do you trust him? And Reese says, well,
Right.
I trust you, don't I? Ooh,
Yes.
that was some foreshadowing.
It absolutely was. So.
Ben gives him this look too.
Oh yeah, he's such a big character going forward there with the second book and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. No, they've set themselves up well, and those are the things, those are the Easter eggs you put in there for the fans, for people that know, that, because I'm sure plenty of people, as much as the audience is going to draw, is going to be a lot of people that have not read the books that are going to watch this because it's Chris Pratt, and they're very smart about their casting, and of course Jack got who he wanted too.
Exactly.
Wanted Pratt from the get-go, and it's exactly how it ended up working out. But this is going to draw a lot of people now to the books. And so, but the fans that had already read the books, and let's be honest, most of the people that are watching the Terminal List that have also read the Terminal List have probably read every other book out there. Maybe they haven't got to blood yet, but they've read the other books. So they kind of know what's happening. And they're looking for those things that hint to what might occur in future series.
There's two other hints. The $20 million, Reese has something to do with all the money that's kind of loose here that ends up happening later on. And also, in a flashback scene, this was episode 7, Lauren is wearing Reese's University of Montana t-shirt, which plays an important role in the backstory of Rafe and him developing their friendship. So there were a couple of little nods, very subtle things going on there.
Yeah, I'm sure that's got Jack's fingerprints on it of wanting to allude to, to point back to the book. Although he, it said in his media, he was knowing that they were going to have to make changes. And again, like we talked about earlier, that's kind of the cool part, because so often the writers get hung up on stuff. From everything I've seen from the media he's done and stuff is, he wanted this to be presented and knew that it was going to be changed.
Right. Let's change it together.
Yes. Embrace those changes. He's happy with, from what I can tell, he's happy with how it's turned out, and as he should be. So I thought they knocked it out of the park. There wasn't, you didn't watch the series and been like, oh man, they botched that one up. No, not at all.
Nope.
I think they did the book justice.
100%. And I think it's going to be an equally great experience. We knew the books and got to watch the show with that kind of critical eye, and it was a lot of fun. I think people who now go read the books are really in for a treat, also doing the same, of thinking how it relates to the story and what changes were made. And you can enjoy them both within their own right. And it's more fun to look for the overlaps and the changes than it is to critique the heck out of it or say, oh, one stinks, the other one's great. They both work as a great complement to one another.
Yeah. Again, I hope people do look at it that way. They have to look at them as to, the core subject matter is there in both things, but it's a different interpretation. Right. It is not a exact retelling of the book. And it can't be. It doesn't work that way. So, the Gray Man's coming out here in another week or two, I think.
Yeah, just a week or so, I think, in theaters, yeah.
And that's coming out as a movie, and I had heard something about that recently. And that one probably, it would have been interesting if they had gone the direction with that. I think this medium works so well. I mean, when you have to take a book, these were about hour episodes, so it was 8 hours of material. Right. When Ray reads these things, they're 10, 11, 12 hours reading. I don't know what the exact read time on them. But an actual book, one book to turn it into a 90-minute or 120-minute movie,
it's tough.
You're getting rid of a lot of source material. So I think to use this medium that Amazon and Netflix have given producers and the creative types, I think it's brilliant, because you can really expand on a book or a series of books.
Yep.
And not cut it short. And I think that's the problem, is it's easy to cut it short, just hit the high notes, hit the big action scene, splice it together. And the fact that they were able to dive into some character development in this shows how the medium works really well, I believe.
I think the Terminal List is a case study in how to do that, and how the two can complement each other. Two different media formats, one written, one visual. There doesn't need to be friction between them. if it's grounded in a team of artists and a team of professionals and a team of storytellers that are going to be open to one another's vision and not close each other out. And if they could truly collaborate as a brotherhood, one might say, the art that they're going to create is going to be magnificent. So this is a case study in how I hope more books and thrillers get adapted on the big screen.
Hey, absolutely. And I hope authors are open to that too, because I know of one author in particular who's a bestseller who will not sell the rights to their book because they, I think, are afraid or concerned of what Hollywood would do to their main character.
They want complete control, yeah.
And I know for this particular person that I've conversed with about it is, the money was not, that's the other thing. I think the layman out there thinks, okay, you get a book, the book might be successful, blah, blah, blah. Hollywood comes knocking. Well, then you're really going to make money. Peanuts are offered sometimes to these authors, especially for the rights. Now, if it gets greenlit, then other money opportunities are there. But, I know he said it out in open. David Morrell for the Rambo, I want to say an interview I saw, I interviewed him one time several years ago too. I believe, if I recall correctly, I think he was given like $60,000 for First Blood to be made. And contractually, they could make sequels, and they only had to pay him, regardless of how much it made at the box office, which it made a ton of money. They were still obligated to just pay him that $60,000 for subsequent.
That one amount. Wow.
So again, don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty darn sure that was the specific detail. I might need to double check that one, but just say that's true. So you can have a movie that could make hundreds of millions of dollars, and the person that created the source material gets a fraction, small fraction. Versus another thing that I just read the other day, I was telling to my kids, I tell it to my son. My son and I went and saw. I've seen it before, but I finally a couple weeks later took him to see Top Gun Maverick.
Nice.
Loved it. What a great experience with my son.
So good.
Oh, it was so good. It was so much better than the first one even. And I love the first one, but it was such a great movie. So I read Tom Cruise was actually his base salary for it. Again, if the article was accurate, was I think $12 million, which isn't a bad amount of money, but he's normally like a $20 million movie guy.
Yeah.
What he got though was he got 10% of. If the article is correct, he got 10% of box office receipts.
Oh, bingo! There you go.
So he's going to make anywhere. It said he's going to make anywhere from $60 to $130 million in receipts off it. Versus a lot of times, what deals people will get was they'll get a base salary and they'll get a percentage of everything after costs, after expenses. Not everyone realizes too that for movies, it makes $100 million to the theater.
Yeah, the net instead of the gross.
The movie theater is getting $50 million, and then if there's other financial backers, they're wanting their percentage, and
exactly.
So you have a 5% of gross or whatever your deal is. At the end of the day, they will throw a couple jars of pickles at you and say, "Hey, we didn't make any money on this movie." That I think I saw that something with like Lord of the Rings. There was some deals with Lord of the Rings years ago that billion-dollar movies,
right?
But New Line Cinema did not show a big, huge profit at the end of the day when everything was paid out. And it's just like, holy
And that
cow.
was what they based percentages on. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So for my greedy, standpoint of please produce mine and please give me a 10% on box office receipts. Give me the Tom Cruise deal without the Tom Cruise success, apparently. But no.
I would take a fraction of Tom Cruise success. Eric, thanks for joining us tonight. It's been a blast. Before we let you go, tell us where we can find your work and where we can find you online and where people can pick up the Bodyman.
Yeah, Bodyman, my website, ericpbishop.com. They can actually get signed copies from there if they want. They can order them. There's a store button there now that I've added recently. I'm on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's only digital. There's physical copies, but you have to order it online. But yeah, if you go into Google and you type in the Bodyman, it'll pop up with my book. You can click on that, and you can also there's indie sites as well that have it, so they can buy it from their local bookstore if they so choose, which I would encourage. Breach of Trust is coming. Again, I'm supposed to told the publisher I'd get it to him in July, so that's my. I'll be jumping into that later tonight. I'm kind of reworking the beginning of the book a little bit based on some reader feedback, which was very good feedback, by the way. But you write something and I don't know. I hear of stories from authors that they write something and they think it's the worst thing in the world. I'm the opposite, I guess. I write something and I'm like, this is brilliant. This is great. You mean I got to change it?
Yeah.
But then, I've learned the process a little bit more in the last several years where I realize, and I've kind of embraced the editing.
The revision process.
Yeah, you get to make it better and better. You get to add in stuff that maybe you didn't think about when you were in deadline, writing as fast as you could. And you're like, I can make this chapter better.
Right.
I'll be really curious. So there's a scene at the end of the book. And actually, it's a scene that I gave away the character in a contest. And Ama Adair, who is a fellow author, she ended up winning the contest. So she has the epic death in Breach of Trust.
Oh, nice.
And I keep needling her and telling her she will cry when she reads this, which she probably won't. And I even messaged her the other day and told her that one of my best friends, who I've never seen him even remotely think of crying, even at the funeral for one of our best friends, he wasn't crying. So he's a pretty stoic guy. He was just like, damn you. I actually teared up during that scene when you killed such and such and such. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I was like, I hope she cries. That's all I care about. I want her to cry when she reads her scene.
I love it. Yeah, if I were going to be a character in a book, I would definitely want an epic death. So that is very fitting to a good friend there. Also, you're a great social media follow. Where can the people find you there?
Twitter is my normal jaunt that I'm really on, spend a little too much time on. So that's at EPB Author is my Twitter handle. Instagram, same thing. Facebook, I think it's under Eric P. Bishop Author. So those are my three hangouts typically, probably in that order: Twitter, Instagram, and then kind of got to do Facebook, but it's probably my least favorite of the three.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thanks for joining us. Everyone else, stay tuned. We are going to do a little bit more Terminalist content over the next few days and weeks. And then eventually, towards the end of July, we will absolutely be shifting to The Gray Man. And we'll be covering the Gray Man movie and some of the books, the first few in the series, by Mark Greaney. And not to mention, we still have some Jack Carr books to cover. So True Believer, book 2 in the James Reece series will definitely be coming out to you, hopefully in just the next week or two. So, well, Eric, thanks for joining us. It was a blast talking Terminalist.
Thanks, Mike. Great series. Great being on with you.
As always, we need to thank our patrons, our special operator, Sherry F., our special agents, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, Jeff, and Mark. Please subscribe, rate, and review using your favorite podcasting platform. Find us at thrillerpod.com or at Thriller Podcast. And as always, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.